Evan Rourke had seen many strange things in his career, but nothing like the Virelian hive ship floating silently above the colony. The enormous structure was unlike any vessel humans had ever encountered. Its surface shimmered with a metallic, chitin-like layer that seemed to pulse in rhythm with an unseen heartbeat. Curved spires reached out like fingers grasping the void of space, and faint, glowing lines ran across the hull, tracing patterns that made Evan feel dizzy when he stared too long. The colony below had reported the ship drifting into orbit months ago. Its presence caused awe among scientists and anxiety among the colonists. The humans had tried to communicate, but the Virelians responded only with incomprehensible signals and occasionally bursts of strange, harmonic vibrations. Finally, the United Earth Council decided to send someone capable of both diplomacy and technical problem-solving. That person was Evan. He stepped onto the landing platform, his boots clanging against the metal. He took a deep breath, adjusting the collar of his uniform. This wasn't just any diplomatic mission. He had been briefed. If he made a mistake, it could mean conflict, and humans didn't yet know enough about the Virelians to fight them. "Stay calm, stay logical," he muttered to himself. The docking bay was enormous. Bioluminescent walls cast soft, shifting lights across the chamber. As he walked, he noticed the faint smell of something like ozone mixed with metal. The ship seemed alive in ways humans could barely understand. Virelians moved gracefully in the distance, their exoskeletons glinting under the lights. They had 6 limbs each, and their movements were precise, almost ritualistic. Evan had seen robots move more fluidly than humans, but the Virelians surpassed even machines in coordination. A figure approached, and Evan instinctively straightened. The Virelian was taller than him, with eyes that reflected light like dark gemstones. Its voice, when it came, was a strange combination of clicks and hums. A translator device hummed, converting the sounds into words Evan could understand. "You are the one sent to help," it said, the words slow and deliberate. "I am," Evan replied, trying to sound confident. "I'm here to assess your ship and help with any repairs needed." Then, in a motion that seemed both formal and welcoming, it turned and gestured for him to follow. Evan kept pace, noting the alien ship's interior. Corridors twisted and curved impossibly, yet he never felt lost. The walls were lined with panels that seemed alive, responding to the presence of beings with soft pulses of light. They reached a wide chamber filled with humming machinery. Energy conduits ran across the floor and ceiling, connecting strange devices that Evan had no name for. Sparks flickered from one panel, and he recognized immediately that the ship was unstable. Small repairs wouldn't suffice. It needed careful, hands-on attention. "You can begin," the Virelian said. Its voice had a subtle musical tone now, almost like a chord. "We will observe." "Understood." He rolled up his sleeves and approached the first conduit. He had brought a kit of universal repair tools designed for flexibility. He worked quickly, carefully, his hands steady as he patched a section where the energy lines had frayed. Sparks popped, and he ducked instinctively, but the Virelians did not flinch. Their eyes followed every movement, assessing, recording, judging. Hours passed. Evan moved from one problem to the next, his mind and body fully engaged. The Virelians never spoke directly to him again. They simply observed. Occasionally, one would step forward, offer a tool, or reposition a component in a way that was helpful but precise, as though every action was part of a larger, incomprehensible ritual. Evan felt a strange sense of respect for their efficiency. He had never worked alongside anyone or anything so methodical. During a short break, he looked up at one of the spires that extended into the hull. The pattern of lights reminded him of a heartbeat, pulsing slowly and steadily. The ship was alive, he realized, in its own way. Not biological like a human, but alive in the way it moved and responded. Every conduit he repaired seemed to make it hum a little smoother. By the time he reached the central chamber, he was sweating but exhilarated. The main reactor core pulsed like a giant eye. Evan examined it carefully, checking for faults. He found one, a minor misalignment in a control array. Fixing it would require him to climb into the core itself. It was risky, but he could do it. His heart pounded as he stepped forward, placing one hand on the glowing panel. The Virelians watched silently, their multiple limbs folded neatly in a stance of attention. Evan adjusted the alignment, carefully tightening components and connecting circuits. He held his breath, waited, and then the core pulsed in a steady rhythm. The hum of the entire ship shifted, smoother now, more balanced. He stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. A voice filled the chamber, louder than before, more resonant. The translator converted it. The sound came from above, echoing through the chamber. He looked up and saw her, the queen. She descended slowly, her wings unfolding in a graceful arc, casting shimmering light across the chamber. Her presence was commanding. Evan felt small, but he forced himself to stand straight. "You have done much for us," the translator rendered. "Your hands honor the hive." Evan had no idea what was about to happen, but he instinctively followed protocol. He stood tall, hands visible, and waited. A series of intricate motions began. The queen extended her limb again, and this time Evan realized he was supposed to mirror her movements. He did so carefully, trying to mimic the graceful arcs. The attendants nodded approvingly. The queen then touched one of the conduits he had repaired, and the entire array glowed brightly. It was a gesture of acknowledgement, or so he thought. Minutes passed. Then the queen gestured toward him again, and he moved closer. She tapped his shoulder lightly with a small appendage. The translator hesitated before rendering it. "Joins?" he asked aloud, unsure if he had misheard. The queen's eyes did not change. The attendants whispered rapidly, clicking and humming, their tone urgent but not hostile. Evan realized he was part of something much bigger than a simple repair mission. Something in the queen's gaze hinted at ceremony, tradition, and a significance he could not fully comprehend. He looked around, trying to maintain calm. The hive systems were now stable, and he had completed the technical work successfully. Yet the realization sank in. Whatever he had done, it meant more than mere repair. The Virelians had a concept of connection and bonding that humans had never encountered. Evan took a deep breath and nodded slowly. I am honored," he said, hoping that humility and respect were enough to show he meant no offense. The queen inclined her head slightly, and the attendants began a sequence of motions that Evan followed instinctively. He mirrored each gesture, careful not to break the rhythm. The chamber seemed alive with energy, the lights pulsing faster, reflecting the hive's satisfaction. Hours later, Evan finally stepped back, exhausted. He had completed the hive repairs and unwittingly participated in a ceremonial ritual that bound him in the eyes of the Virelians to their queen. He felt pride in his work, but also unease. He did not yet understand the full meaning of what had occurred. The queen hovered above, observing him with what Evan could only describe as a mixture of curiosity and approval. "The human works well," the translator finally said. "He honors us. He joins without fear." The queen's compound eyes glimmered, and she slowly ascended, leaving Evan in the chamber with a sense of awe and trepidation. As he walked back through the corridors, Evan realized that this mission had already changed him. Humans were capable of so much more than the Virelians could have imagined. Ingenuity, courage, and careful thought could bridge worlds. Yet he also understood that he had stepped into a culture far more intricate and unforgiving than his own. Every action mattered, every gesture was watched, and the meaning of simple work could be magnified in ways he did not yet comprehend. He paused at the docking bay, looking out at the planet below. The colony lights twinkled like stars mirrored on the surface. Humanity had taken a small but meaningful step into the cosmos. He had helped as he intended. But he had also become part of something far larger, something he was only beginning to understand. And somewhere above him, the queen's presence lingered, a reminder that in the vastness of space, even the simplest act of human skill could be seen as profound. Evan couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in the queen's chamber. He had repaired the hive ship, stabilized its systems, and yet somehow he had also become part of a ceremony he did not fully understand. The words of the translator echoed in his mind. "The human joins with the hive." He had assumed it was symbolic, a polite acknowledgement of his work. Now, however, he wasn't so sure. He walked through the corridors of the ship, keeping his eyes on the flowing lights and observing the Virelians around him. They moved with precision, their 6 limbs folding and unfolding in patterns that seemed choreographed. Even their glances carried meaning, and Evan felt acutely aware of how his every movement might be interpreted. One of the attendants approached, moving with the silent grace of the others. Its voice, calm and measured, came through the translator. "The Queen wishes to see you again. She requests your presence to honor your deeds further." He moved with them now, more confident than before, though unease lingered like a shadow. He entered a wide chamber he had not seen before. Bioluminescent panels lined the walls, forming intricate designs that seemed to shift as he walked. The queen waited at the center, her wings partially unfurled, casting soft reflections across the room. Her compound eyes glimmered and she extended a limb in greeting. Evan bowed slightly, trying to show respect without overstepping. "You have done much," the translator rendered. You honor the hive with your hands and mind. You are the first human to join without fear. I don't understand what that means. He swallowed and decided to continue carefully, following their instructions while keeping his hands visible and movements deliberate. The queen observed him closely, her gaze sharp but not hostile. Every motion he made seemed to elicit a response from her and the attendants. It was clear that precision mattered. Missteps could be interpreted as disrespect. As the ritual progressed, Evan began to notice subtle details. The attendants whispered among themselves in a series of clicks, almost like conversation. Each movement of their limbs carried meaning, and the lights along the walls seemed to pulse in response to their gestures. Evan realized that the hive was not just a ship but a living network of communication, where energy, light, and motion were all part of a complex system. Hours passed. Evan learned quickly, adapting to the strange customs while performing the tasks the queen assigned. Some were simple, like adjusting conduits or aligning panels. Others were more abstract, requiring him to move in patterns that mimicked the flow of the hive's energy. He did his best, knowing that failure could have consequences he could not predict. Finally, the queen paused and spoke through the translator. You honor the hive. You are accepted as part of our circle. I only meant to help with the repairs. The circle recognizes your presence as a union. But I do not mean to join in any permanent way. I only wish to help. His mind seeks only to help. We will honor this intent, but the act itself is sacred. You have joined. It projected a holographic map of the hive's energy flow. Evan studied it, realizing that his previous repairs had created a perfect balance. The hive's energy now flowed smoothly, without disruption. The queen had been right to call his work significant, but the symbolic meaning of the act had been completely lost on him. Evan realized he had to find a way to navigate this situation. He could not simply walk away. To refuse or to misstep might be seen as insult or defiance, and yet he needed to maintain his own agency to explain human intentions without offending the hive. Over the next few hours, he observed the queen and her attendants, taking careful notes in his mind. Every movement, every gesture, every pulse of light seemed to have meaning. He began to understand the pattern. The hive valued precision, respect, and dedication above all else. Words were secondary. Actions, especially skilled actions that contributed to the well-being of the hive, were sacred. Evan decided to use this understanding to his advantage. He continued to perform the rituals as expected, but he added subtle deviations, small hints of human individuality. A tilt of the head, a pause before movement, a careful placement of a tool. Each action demonstrated skill and respect without fully conforming to Viorlian expectations. He hoped this would signal to the queen that his intentions were honorable but not binding in the human sense. The queen watched closely. Her eyes followed every motion and the attendants mirrored him, creating a symphony of clicks, hums, and gestures. Slowly, Evan began to sense approval, not complete understanding but acknowledgement. He had not broken protocol, he had adapted it. Finally, the queen extended a limb toward him. The translator rendered. The hive remembers your actions. Every future action would be interpreted in the context of this ceremony. He had become part of their history without even realizing it. That night, as he rested in a small chamber provided for him, Evan reviewed everything he had learned. He had repaired the ship, stabilized the hive's energy flow, and navigated an alien ritual without prior knowledge. He had survived hours of intense observation and complex gestures. He had made mistakes, but none catastrophic, and he had gained respect. He realized that this was the essence of humanity, adaptable, intelligent, and resourceful. Humans could learn quickly, adjust to new circumstances, and use their ingenuity to solve problems. He had done exactly that, and in doing so, he had earned a place, however small, in a culture far older and stranger than his own. Still, a worry lingered. The concept of joining meant something far more serious to the Viorlians than it did to humans. How could he explain that his actions were purely practical, motivated by duty and skill, not by any desire to participate in a union? He knew he would have to find a way soon before future ceremonies or rituals assumed his consent. Evan lay back, staring at the soft glow of the chamber's walls. The hum of the hive surrounded him, comforting and strange at the same time. He felt a growing sense of connection, not spiritual, not emotional, but practical. He had become part of a living system, and that system had recognized his value. For the first time, he understood that helping was more than a task. In the eyes of the Virelians, it was a sacred act, and he unknowingly had participated in a ritual that bound him to their culture. Evan closed his eyes, exhausted but alert. He had survived the first challenge. He had repaired the hive and navigated the first layer of alien protocol. But the real test was just beginning. Tomorrow, he would have to face the court again, learn more about Virelian customs, and find a way to clarify human intentions without disrespecting theirs. He was determined. Humans had adapted to harsh worlds, conquered space, and solved problems no other species could. If anyone could navigate this misunderstanding, it was him. And somewhere above him, Queen Viola watched, her eyes thoughtful. The hive had accepted him, and the queen's curiosity had been piqued. She had never seen a being act with such careful intelligence and dedication, and her instincts told her that humans could be more than allies. They could be partners, problem solvers, and perhaps even legendary contributors to the hive's future. Evan did not know it yet, but the path ahead would test every skill, every ounce of patience, and every spark of ingenuity he possessed. The misunderstanding of joining was only the beginning, and the hive was full of surprises. But one thing was certain. Humanity had made its mark, and Evan Rourke was the proof. Evan awoke to the soft hum of the hive's ship. The pulse of the walls was steady now, a rhythm that seemed to echo the work he had done the day before. He stretched and rubbed his eyes, remembering the events that had left him both impressed and uneasy. Repairing the hive had been one challenge, but navigating the Virelians' ritualized customs had proven far more complex. Now he faced a new day, and with it, the continuation of a misunderstanding that could not be ignored. He dressed quickly, checking his tools and notebooks. The ship's corridors were alive with movement, but Evan noticed a difference. The Virelians no longer watched him with suspicion. Instead, their eyes reflected respect, curiosity, and a hint of cautious admiration. Every motion he made was precise, deliberate, and attentive to detail. This, he realized, had earned him a place in their minds as someone competent, careful, and reliable. As he made his way to the central chamber, an attendant approached, moving with the quiet grace of all Virelians. Its clicks and hums were translated for him. "The Queen wishes your presence for observation and instruction." He could only hope that his human perspective would not offend. "I understand," he said, his voice steady. The chamber was as imposing as ever. Bioluminescent lights traced shifting patterns on the walls, and the energy flow hummed like a heartbeat. Queen Viola descended, her wings catching the light, creating a prism of color across the room. She observed him intently, her compound eyes reflecting intelligence and curiosity. Evan felt small under her gaze, but he stood straight, determined to meet the challenge. "You have aided the hive," the translator rendered. "Your hands honor us. You have joined the circle. But joining, please understand, my intention was only to repair. I am not part of the circle in the way you mean." His hands moved instinctively, adjusting circuits, aligning conduits, and stabilizing the flow. The lights pulsed steadily in response. The hive reacted to him as it would to a skilled member, and the queen observed with keen interest. "You act with thought and precision," the translator rendered. "Your mind is unusual among humans." That is all. He realized that humans were not only capable of contributing to the Virelians' tasks, but they could enhance the hive systems through creativity and ingenuity, something the aliens themselves did not expect. The queen motioned toward a series of conduits that led deeper into the hive's heart. Evan followed. The path was narrow, winding, and alive with energy. Panels hummed softly, and the lights shifted as he moved, almost as though the ship were guiding him. The queen observed silently, her gaze unwavering. Evan felt a strange sense of partnership, despite the misunderstanding. Reaching the central core, he noted a problem, a subtle misalignment that threatened the stability of the energy flow. Humans had a unique way of seeing problems, he realized, one that combined logic, intuition, and creativity. The Virelians approached issues differently, with ritual and pattern. By combining human innovation with their established system, he could achieve results neither could reach alone. Evan climbed into the core chamber, adjusting components with care. Sparks flared briefly, and he ducked instinctively. The queen and her attendants did not flinch, their confidence in him evident. As he worked, he realized that his actions were not just repairs. They were proof of human adaptability, intelligence, and courage. When the core stabilized, the hum of the hive shifted to a smoother, more harmonious rhythm. The queen extended a limb toward him, and the translator rendered her words. "The human strengthens the hive. his hands bind with care, not instinct alone. "We observe your understanding of our ways," the translator said. "It is unusual. Your mind does not simply follow, it adapts." It was their strength, and it was what earned humanity respect in every corner of the galaxy. The Queen gestured again, directing him to another section of the core. Here, several conduits intersected in a complex network. The Violians had designed it with precision, but there was a flaw, a minor inefficiency that humans might notice. Evan studied it carefully, his mind racing with calculations. With subtle adjustments, he improved the flow, increasing energy efficiency without disturbing the hive's balance. The Queen observed silently, then extended a limb toward him in what he interpreted as approval. The attendants clicked and hummed, a symphony of acknowledgement. Evan realized that every action he took not only fixed the ship, but also communicated human capability, intelligence, and respect. Hours passed, and Evan continued to work alongside the hive. He learned to anticipate the Violians' movements, to predict their responses, and to act in ways that honored both human logic and alien custom. He felt a sense of pride, not arrogance but confidence. Humans could adapt, learn, and excel even in circumstances they did not fully understand. Suddenly, one of the younger Violians approached with a concern. A secondary conduit had begun to fluctuate, threatening the stability of a critical energy loop. Evan's heart raced. If he did not act quickly, the hive could suffer a setback. He assessed the situation and realized he could solve it with a combination of human logic and Violian technique. He adjusted the flow, carefully rerouting energy while maintaining balance across the network. The conduit stabilized, humming steadily. The Queen's eyes reflected approval, and the attendants clicked rapidly, a chorus of acknowledgement. Evan felt a surge of satisfaction. He had solved a complex problem under pressure, a classic human trait respected even by the alien hive. As he worked, Evan thought about the joining misunderstanding. The Violians valued action over words, and his skills had already demonstrated his intentions. Perhaps, he realized, this was the way to navigate the cultural gap, continue to act with care, intelligence, and respect. Words might confuse, but actions could communicate truth. After the repairs, the Queen gestured for him to rest. He withdrew to a quiet chamber, reflecting on the events of the day. He had stabilized the hive, navigated an alien ritual, and demonstrated human ingenuity under observation. The misunderstanding of joining still lingered, but for now, he had gained trust. He had made allies, shown skill, and proven that humans could contribute in ways the Violians had not anticipated. Evan realized that this was humanity at its best. Adaptable, resourceful, intelligent. Even in the face of complex and unfamiliar systems, humans could find solutions, earn respect, and leave a mark. He had done more than repair a ship. He had demonstrated what humans could achieve. That evening, the Queen visited him in the quiet chamber. Her wings were folded, her posture relaxed but commanding. She observed him silently for a long moment. The translator rendered her words, "You are unusual. Humans act with courage and intelligence. You have impressed the hive. I only want to help and learn." It was about bridging worlds, earning trust, and showing that humanity could be a partner among the stars. He lay down to rest, thinking of the path ahead. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and cultural puzzles he had yet to solve, but he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had always faced the unknown and found a way to adapt, innovate, and survive. The Violians were no different in some ways, but Evan could see that humans had something unique: creativity, intuition, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. As sleep overtook him, he imagined the hive's systems flowing smoothly, guided by his hands and mind. He was part of something larger than himself, a living structure that responded to intelligence and care. And though the misunderstanding of joining lingered, Evan knew that human ingenuity and respect would guide him through it. The next day would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to demonstrate what humans could achieve. And somewhere in the heart of the hive, the Queen observed, her curiosity growing. She had never seen a human act with such precision, courage, and intelligence. Evan's presence was already changing her perception of humanity, and she was eager to see what he could do next. Evan woke to the soft hum of the hive, but today there was a subtle tension in the air. The corridors seemed quieter, yet somehow heavier. He dressed quickly, checking his tools and notes. His mind replayed the previous days, the repairs, the rituals, the Queen's observation. Everything had gone smoothly, yet he could sense that the misunderstanding of joining had created an invisible pressure. He made his way to the central chamber, noting that the Virelians moved differently today. Their movements were precise, but there was an edge to their coordination, as if they anticipated something. An attendant approached, moving faster than usual, and the translator rendered its clicks and hums. "The Queen requests your immediate presence. A situation has arisen." The corridors twisted and curved, but he no longer felt lost. He had memorized the patterns of the ship, understood its energy flow, and had begun to anticipate the Virelians' movements. When he entered the chamber, Queen Viola was waiting, her wings partially extended. Her compound eyes reflected both curiosity and concern. The attendants formed a semicircle around her, clicking rapidly. Evan realized that something serious had occurred, though the exact nature remained unclear. The translator rendered the Queen's words. "A faction questions your place among us. They see the humans joining as an affront to tradition. I am here to assist, nothing more." The Queen gestured toward a complex network of energy conduits. "A critical issue has arisen. Your action is required." As he worked, he noticed the subtle tension in the room. Some attendants whispered, clicking rapidly. Evan realized that the faction questioning his place was watching him closely. Their compound eyes glimmered with scrutiny, and every motion he made was being judged. He focused on the task. The conduits were misaligned, and the energy pulses had begun to interfere with one another. Evan carefully calculated adjustments, rerouted flows, and stabilized connections. Sparks flared briefly, but he remained calm. The lights along the walls shifted in response to his work, and the hum of the hive grew steadier. "You act with thought and precision," the translator rendered. "Your mind adapts, you do not follow blindly." "I only want to help," he said again, though he knew words mattered little here. It was his actions that spoke. Minutes turned into hours. Evan climbed deeper into the core, adjusting conduits, balancing energy loops, and preventing overloads. The Queen watched silently, her eyes tracking every movement. The faction observing him seemed less certain now, their clicks slower, more measured. His ingenuity and courage were evident. Humans had a way of seeing problems differently, of combining logic with intuition. That combination was powerful, even to the Virelians. Finally, the system stabilized. The energy pulses flowed smoothly, and the hive responded with a harmonious hum. The Queen extended a limb toward him, her compound eyes reflecting approval. The translator rendered, "You have proven your intent and ability. The hive recognizes your skill. You must act to secure understanding, not only with repair but with insight. Follow, the challenge awaits." He took a deep breath and began to work. He adjusted the junction, rerouted energy loops, and introduced small redundancies to prevent future fluctuations. Every motion was precise, deliberate. The Virelians observed, some assisting minimally, others recording every step. The faction members watched closely, their expressions unreadable. As Evan worked, he realized something important. The Virelians respected competence above all. Tradition mattered, but skill and intelligence could overcome suspicion. If he demonstrated understanding, creativity, and careful action, the misunderstanding could be resolved. Humans were adaptable. That adaptability was their strength. Hours passed. Evan continued to adjust, test, and optimize. The junction stabilized, and the energy pulses flowed perfectly. The hive responded, the lights along the walls shifting in harmony with the energy flow. The Queen extended a limb again, her gesture clear approval. "You act with foresight and skill. You honor the hive," the translator rendered. The faction's members clicked rapidly, then paused. Slowly, they inclined their heads, acknowledging Evan's contribution. He had not only repaired the system, but had proven that his actions were thoughtful, intelligent, and respectful of Virelian customs. The misunderstanding of joining had been overshadowed by his ingenuity and courage. Evan took a step back, exhausted but satisfied. He had faced scrutiny, pressure, and a complex problem, and he had succeeded. The Queen's gaze lingered on him, and for the first time he felt a sense of genuine partnership. Humans and Virelians, though different in every way, could work together. They could overcome misunderstanding with intelligence, skill, and respect. The Queen's voice came again, "You have secured understanding." Yet lessons remain. Observe, learn, and continue to act with care. The hive values action over words, and your actions have spoken well. His skill, ingenuity, and careful action had earned him respect, trust, and a place in the hive's ongoing story. Later, in his quarters, Evan reflected on the day. Humans were remarkable not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they could adapt, innovate, and act decisively in unknown situations. That ability had earned him trust and respect in a culture far older and stranger than his own. He opened his notebook and began to record everything he had learned. The hive's energy patterns, the rituals, the behaviors of the attendants, and the subtle cues of the queen. Every detail mattered. Understanding the culture, anticipating expectations, and demonstrating skill were all part of the HFY principle. Humans could achieve greatness through intelligence, courage, and adaptability. As he wrote, he realized that the challenges ahead would only grow more complex. The Violians had a long memory and a highly structured society. Misunderstandings could have consequences if left unchecked. But Evan felt confident. He had proven that humans could not only survive in alien environments but could thrive, innovate, and earn respect in ways no other species might expect. The hive pulsed around him, alive and responsive. Evan felt a quiet pride. He had become part of something larger than himself, a living system that responded to intelligence and careful action. Humans were not simply helpers. They were problem solvers, innovators, and collaborators. He closed his notebook and lay down to rest, thinking of the day's events. The misunderstanding of joining still lingered, but he knew that through ingenuity, respect, and courage, humans could navigate even the most complex of alien customs. And somewhere in the heart of the hive, Queen Viola observed, her eyes reflecting curiosity and approval. Evan had not only repaired the ship but had proven humanity's value. The hive would remember, and humanity's reputation among the stars had grown. Evan drifted to sleep with a sense of accomplishment. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready. Humans had always faced the unknown, and they had always adapted. In the vastness of space, skill, intelligence, and courage mattered above all. And Evan Rourke had just proved that humans could rise to meet any challenge, even one that began as a misunderstanding of ritual and intent. Evan woke to the gentle hum of the hive ship, feeling the quiet anticipation of a day unlike any before. The events of the past days had built a foundation of understanding between him and the Violians, yet the misunderstanding of joining still lingered in the background, like a shadow at the edge of light. Today, he knew, would be the day to resolve it. He dressed quickly, checking his tools and notes, though he was certain this day would demand more than mechanical skill. It would require insight, judgment, and the careful application of human ingenuity. As he moved through the corridors, he observed the Violians with a mix of curiosity and respect. They, too, seemed to sense the importance of the day. Their clicks and hums carried a tone of expectancy, as though they waited to see if he could navigate the final test of understanding. An attendant approached him, moving with quiet precision, and its clicks were translated. "The Queen requests your presence in the central chamber. Today, the matter of joining will be addressed." He took a deep breath and followed, moving through the familiar corridors with confidence he had earned over the last days. He knew the hive's patterns, the flow of energy, and the rhythm of the Violians' movements. Knowledge, he realized, was a kind of armor in this alien world. The central chamber was alive with activity. The queen descended gracefully, her wings partially unfurled, casting shifting reflections across the chamber. The attendants formed a precise formation around her, their limbs moving in synchronized arcs. The hive itself seemed to pulse in anticipation. Evan stepped forward carefully, bowing his head in respect. "The human has acted with care and skill," the translator rendered. His hands honor the hive, yet the matter of joining remains unresolved. Around her, the attendants clicked and hummed, recording and interpreting his words and gestures. Evan realized that in this culture, intent could only be proven through action, not explanation alone. She extended a limb toward a complex energy array, indicating that he should examine it. Evan approached and immediately noticed subtle instabilities in the system. They were minor, but in the hive, even small flaws could grow into dangerous problems. He adjusted panels, aligned conduits, and rerouted flows with careful precision. The lights shifted as he worked, responding to his touch. "You act with understanding," the translator rendered. "Your mind sees beyond what is presented. You honor the hive with foresight." The energy flow stabilized, and the hive responded with a harmonious resonance. The queen extended a limb again, a subtle gesture of approval, and the attendants clicked in synchronized acknowledgement. Evan felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had acted with intelligence, care, and courage, proving his intentions beyond any doubt. Then the queen spoke again. "The human has demonstrated skill, understanding, and respect. His actions reflect intent. The hive recognizes his presence as contribution, not binding." Humans are unusual, the translator rendered. They act with courage, intelligence, and flexibility. Your people's value is now recognized. You have shown the hive that action can bridge gaps of culture and misunderstanding. His careful actions and ingenuity had demonstrated the strengths of humanity in a way words alone could never have conveyed. A senior attendant approached, holding a small device that displayed the hive's energy network. Evan studied it and noticed a potential improvement. Using human intuition and logic, he made a subtle adjustment to enhance the energy distribution across the hive. The hive responded immediately, the lights pulsing in harmony, and a sense of stability spread through the chamber. The queen observed with keen interest. The human acts beyond expectation, the translator rendered. His mind finds solutions that our patterns cannot predict. This is intelligence rare among all beings. I am learning as much as I am helping. Later, as he rested in a quiet chamber, Evan reflected on the events of the past days. He had faced challenges he could never have anticipated, repairing alien technology, navigating unfamiliar rituals, and earning trust in a culture that valued action above all. Each success had been a testament to human adaptability and intelligence. He realized that humans did not merely survive in unknown environments. They could thrive, innovate, and earn respect. His actions had proven that humanity's value lay not in strength alone, but in courage, ingenuity, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. The queen visited him once more, her presence commanding yet calm. She observed him silently for a long moment, then extended a limb. The translator rendered her words. The human's intent is clear. His actions honor the hive. The matter of joining is resolved. You are recognized as contributor, not bound. I am honored to be able to help and to learn. In the following days, Evan continued to work with the hive. He learned more about the Virelians, their rituals, and their systems, contributing wherever he could. He demonstrated human ingenuity in solving problems that the Virelians themselves had never encountered. Each success further strengthened the bond between species and solidified humanity's reputation as a capable and reliable partner. One morning, as he observed the flow of energy through the hive, he reflected on the path that had brought him here. What had begun as a simple mission to repair a stranded ship had grown into a profound exercise in diplomacy, ingenuity, and cultural understanding. Humans had proven that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could overcome misunderstanding and earn respect, even in a society as complex and ritualized as the Virelians. The queen approached him once more, her eyes reflecting curiosity and approval. Your people are remarkable, the translator rendered. They act with courage, intelligence, and respect. The hive remembers your contributions, human. He had demonstrated that humans could act decisively, intelligently, and with courage in circumstances that no one had fully understood. As he walked through the hive's corridors, he noticed subtle changes. The Virelians no longer viewed him as an outsider. Their movements, gestures, and hums reflected respect and trust. Humans had become part of their story, not by force, not by declaration, but through ingenuity, courage, and careful action. Evan paused at a window, looking down at the colony below. Lights twinkled like stars mirrored on the surface. Humanity had made its mark, and he had shown that their value extended beyond technology, strength, or speed. It lay in creativity, intelligence, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. He turned back toward the heart of the hive, ready to continue his work. There would be more challenges, more complexities, and more lessons to learn, but Evan knew that humans could rise to meet them. They could bridge cultures, solve problems, and earn respect through action. Somewhere above him, the queen observed, her wings reflecting soft light. She had never seen a human act with such precision, courage, and intelligence. Evan's presence had changed her perception of humanity. He had proven that humans were not only helpers, they were innovators, problem solvers, and partners in the vastness of space. Evan settled into his tasks, focused and confident. The misunderstanding had been resolved, the hive was stabilized, and humanity's place among the stars had grown. In the quiet hum of the hive, he felt a sense of pride. Humans had acted wisely, skillfully, and bravely, and their efforts had not gone unnoticed. As night fell over the colony below, Evan looked out at the stars. Humanity's journey into the cosmos was just beginning, and he knew that through courage, intelligence, and careful action, humans could meet any challenge. The hive pulsed around him, alive, harmonious, and aware. And in that living network, Evan Rourke had carved humanity's first chapter of triumph, respect, and partnership. For the first time since arriving, he allowed himself to relax completely. He had helped, learned, and proven human worth. He had bridged worlds, solved problems, and earned respect through action. And as the hive thrummed in quiet celebration, Evan knew that humanity's legacy among the stars was only beginning. I thought I was helping, until the alien queen called it a marriage act HFY sci-fi story.